I'd like to move on to the third speaker, Dr. Takahiko Ishizaki from Tokyo University of Foreign Studies. He's currently a research fellow there. He got his PhD in 2017 from Tokyo University of Foreign Studies, and he did his master's in international scholarly history of India and Japan. He also holds the venerable position of being a Shinsoku or Shinto priest at Hitachi no Kuni Soshogu Shrine in Sosha, Ishioka, Ibaraki Prefecture, where he conducts all the shrine ceremonies. So, Dr. Ishizaki, thank you.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, good morning, everyone. My name is Takahiko Ishizaki from Tokyo University of Foreign Studies, and I'm doing Shinto priest in Hitachi no Kuni Soshagu Shrine, Ibaraki Prefecture. It is great honor to be here again, and I really appreciate the invitation, especially from Sushila Sensei. Now I'd like to start my presentation. Just a minute. Okay, today's presentation is a study of Indo-Zoshi, which was written by Hirata Atsutane. He was numbered as one of 4 great scholars of Kokugaku in the late Edo period. Kokugaku is national learning or the study of Japanese classics, and his scholarship covers enormous fields from myth, ancient history, poetry, and even military science, and so forth. But the main interest was to seek roots or essence of ancient Shintoism. To understand Japanese mythology, he studied foreign religion and myths such as Buddhism, Christianity, and Hinduism as well. Indo-Zoshi is his enormous 25-volume work written from 1820 to 26. And this book is main authoring to study and criticize Buddhism by Atsutane, which has an empirical scholarly aspect as well. The notable point is that Atsutane made detailed study about Indo, India, Tenjiku, as well as examining huge amount of Buddhist texts. By quoting the newest knowledge about geography through Western-oriented information, Atsutane deconstructed the image of previously imagined Tenjiku and redefined the place as real India. The outline is like this. First, I would like to mention about Tenjiku, Indo, India, and second, I would pick up an example described in Indo-Zoshi, particularly about Mughal Empire. And third, I introduce important source of Indo-Zoshi, the scholar named Asahina Atsunari and his work, Bukkoku Kosho. And fourth, a comparison between Hinduism and Shintoism will be examined. And finally, I will state brief conclusion. Before examining Indo-Zoshi, let's have a look at the worldview of the Japanese in medieval and early modern period. As Professor Lambelli mentioned at the previous presentation, Tenjiku started to be known as the birthplace of Buddhism with its introduction to Japan in the mid-6th century. The world view of Japanese people of that time is called Sangoku Sekaikan, or three-country worldview. In this framework, the whole world consisted of 3 countries, Honcho, Japan, and China, Shintan, and Tenjiku, and which this is generally considered as the old name of India. This worldview changed with the new geographical information from Europe, which is called Godaishu framework. In Godaishu, whole world is consisted of 5 continents: Asia, Europe, Libya, which is Africa, and America, and Megalanica. The establishment of Godaishu world subsequently led people to abandon the concept of Tenjiku. Indo-Zoshi begins with the issue of many different names of India. First, Atsutane quotes from the Daito Saikiki, Great Town Records on the Western regions, written by Chinese monk Shanzang in 7th century. Quote, Tenjiku has been referred to by many different names. In the past, Shindoku and Kenzu were used. The currently used term Indo is based on the correct pronunciation of the country's name. And after quotation, Atsutane follows like this. Shindoku, Kenzu, both are corruption of Indo, should be pronounced Ento. Tenjiku should be pronounced Chendo. Tenjiku was written as Tentoku or Tendoku in some records. Although this is based on precise sound, it is fine to pronounce Tenjiku as usual because Chendo sounds strange. Today, Westerners use the term India, which is a corruption of Indo. According to Daito Saikiki, Tenjiku, Shindoku, Kenzu, Indo are all same, but pronunciation is different. The term Tenjiku has been most commonly used since the Middle Ages, while the term Indo was restricted mostly exclusively to Buddhist texts. We can see that Atsutane precisely understood this kind of situation. Atsutane understood that the location referred to as India by Westerners was the same place indicated by the term Tenjiku and Indo, and wrote like this. Particularly our country, no one have sailed from our country to Tenjiku since ancient times. It was roughly written in some books like Sairan Igen that someone sailed to Siam in Genna period. It was also Siam that a merchant called Sumikura Beniya sailed to Tenjiku in Kan'e period. When I examined the travel report by Soshin Toten, he sailed to Siam as well. Soshin is so-called Tenjiku Tokubei. He wrote that Siam was Magadha, Ryojusen existed in that country. This report is coherent because he misunderstood that he sailed to Naka Tenjiku. Even the intellectuals like Nishikawa Joken or Arai Hakuseki in 18th century, Tenjiku was used to refer to an extremely expansive area that includes present-day Southeast Asia as well. And India and Tenjiku are treated as different concepts. As can be seen from the case of Tenjiku Tokubei, Thailand in particular was known as Mid-Tenjiku, and as a result, it was considered Tenjiku itself. Atsutane considered this an incoherent view and pointed out as fallacy. Then he attempted to rectify this sort of geographical understanding so that the Tenjiku and Siam would rightly be considered separate countries. According to Atsutane, when Buddhists depicted Tenjiku, they embellished the facts and showed its holy place bigger and more splendid in order to protect their faith. That is why Tenjiku became a huge concept which include enormous area. In Indo-Zoshi, Atsutane referred to Mughal Empire. The existence of Mughal Empire was recognized among intellectuals since 17th century in Japan. quote, Go Indo is a name for that a whole country divided into 5 regions, East, West, North, South, and Central. When we considered major Western maps, topographies, only South Tenjiku of Go Tenjiku is called India. The rest of 4 was mostly gradually occupied by Mongols. According to Indo-Zoshi, within the region referred to as Go Tenjiku, 5 Tenjiku, only South Tenjiku indicated present-day India. The remaining 4 Tenjiku were described as a single country known as Mughal. This is the Mughal Empire. While Atsutane's knowledge of geography depended largely on his Dutch studies, his information about India is believed to have relied on Teisei, Zoyaku, Sairan, Igen, and Indo-Zoshi written by Yamamura Saisuke. Yamamura Saisuke was a Dutch scholar of the Tsuchiura Han in Edo period, and he consulted Johann Huebner's Geographica, which was the best work on geography available to the Japanese at that time. Indoshi was the most comprehensive work on the geography of India available in Japan during late Edo period. And Atsutane's understanding of the world was highly advanced for his time. Let's move on to the next source of Indo-Zoshi, Bukkoku Kosho and Asahina Atsunari. The Sangoku Sekaikan is closely linked to the worldview of Buddhism. In this view, we can see words like Jembu Dupipa, Mount Meru, and so forth. Those who had an image of Tenjiku that was based on this worldview were certain to have been doubtful of world maps originating from Europe. This was because on European maps, Tenjiku was included on these new maps as a part of Asia. It was completely a new geographical concept for Japanese. This was also because no mention was made of Buddhist sites in Tenjiku, in European map. It was under these circumstances that geographical scholar Asahina Atsunari emerged. He was from Nagoya Han and born in 1748 and died in 1829. He engaged in studies to determine the location of Buddhist sites on the new European maps. His book, Bukkoku Kosho, contained what was considered the most accurate map of India at that time. Atsutane and Atsunari engaged in correspondence between 1827 to 8, and Atsutane had great confidence in Atsunari's work, Bukkoku Kosho. Atsunari began from the depiction of Tenjiku contained in these texts. He then tried to identify a more realistic image of India based on geographical knowledge he had obtained through his study of Dutch learning. However, he didn't simply accept everything that was depicted on European maps. Atsunari identified the place names he found on European maps and Buddhist texts using materials he considered reliable. And Hirata Atsutane quoted this map in the Indo-Zoshi. This is the map. Looking at this map, we see that Go Tenjiku, of Buddhist worldview, is located within the Indian subcontinent, and that place names like Magadha, Kongoza, Anokutatsu were seen in the map as well. But despite a lot of lacking this map, many of the major cities of early modern India, like Delhi, Agra, Lahore, and Nagapattinam are accurately situated on the map. Atsutane's idea about this map is here. Quote, we cannot find not only the huge tree and buju, but also 37 forests, 4 huge lake and mountain, all are said to be existed in Buddhist worldview. If so, 3 country and bushu are all fallacy. It is only Buddha's view and it is only limited to inside India. Therefore, because Buddha didn't know the neighboring countries, Shumi Sekai, Shitaishu, Daisen Sekai are all fallacy. Since the Middle Ages, Buddhists had advocated that Tenjiku was a holy site. That was precisely because it was impossible to travel there. And they sang praises of this holiness. However, if the Tenjiku were to simply be the country known in the West at that time, India, if there were European intruders who had actually been there, then it would cease to be something admired and yearned for. Yamamura, Saisuke, and Asahina Atsunari had more detailed knowledge in terms of geographical matter than Atsutane. However, the most important point of Hirata Atsutane's Indology is related to the study of Koden, or legend, of Brahmanism or Hinduism, and Japanese Shintoism. What Atsutane had in mind was Shinto, and the aspects of Brahmanism had points in common with it. He used the ancient legend as a supplementary source to fill the historical gaps on which Western learning was unable to shed light. Atsutane attempts to compare Brahmanism to Shinto. For example, he states about Sunan, or ablution, in the Ganges River as described in Shata Shastra. Quote, Goga, Ganges River, is so-called one of 4 major rivers in India. Ancient saint is called Balamon. Bathing into the river 3 times is what we call confession. It is not different from Misogi Harae of Shinto because it is purification to remove tsumi kegare, sin and dirtiness of the soul. The evolution that has been performed from the age of Brahmanism to the present-day Hinduism is the same religious practice performed for the purpose of purifying the body that is known in Shinto as misogi, which is achieved via the sanctity of water. Atsutane had a good understanding of this thing. Atsutane's ancient legends were not limited to Japan. He gathered legends from around the world. He focused on Brahmanism as a source that he could use to compensate for gaps in the legend of Japan. Atsutane concluded that the exaggerated wonder glorified by Buddhists was preposterous and unfounded. On the other hand, he discovered similarity between Japan and real India. Quote, the beginning of the world is clear from the ancient legends of our country. Ame no Minakanushi no Kami existed over the heaven from the start. The legend of the beginning, which was preserved in barbarian countries, corruption changed from the Japanese legend. Among such corruption, the legend of India is very detailed. We can see some essence which our country's legend have already lost. The information obtained via Western geography not only enable him to dissect Tenjiku as the birthplace of Buddhism and thereby redefine it as actual place called India, but also he can position it as a country that preserved the ancient legend of Japan. In this sense, it can be said that he wrote the Indo-Zoshi in order to identify the holy Tenjiku as real India.
Could you please?
Okay, I'm now finishing. As
Okay.
I have argued, the Indo-Zoshi is not simply a work of Buddhist criticism. He developed a perception of Tenjiku as a place known as India that was part of the real world. And Atsutane didn't conceive of India simply as Tenjiku, the birthplace of Buddhism, as told in the three-country worldview. The main objective of the Indo-Zoshi was to verify the ancient legends of the Japan. He linked the Brahmanism to Shinto by finding similarities with the ancient legends and tradition of Japan, and which he considered the origin of the world. Atsutane attempted to see whether real India could withstand the common conception of Tenjiku as an abstract place for which people longed, and Tenjiku, which continued to be glorified by Buddhists, was neither the enormous country they believed it to be. India now be considered nothing more than a small part of the new geographical Asia, rather than one of three major countries in the three-country worldview. This knowledge made it difficult for the people of Japan to continue thinking of Tenjiku as a place they admired. Just as Europeans defined themselves in opposition to the other in the form of Orient or India, the Japanese defined themselves in opposition to Tenjiku, which is the most significant the other for them. This presentation is mostly based on my book, chapter 7, 日本における天竺認識の歴史的考察. Thank you for your attention.
Are there any questions for Dr. Ishizaki? I don't see any in the room right now, so I'm